The moment I found out the new intern was making double my salary, I went to the plant manager to ask for a raise. He refused. "You're almost 40 years old, Leo," he said. "If you leave this place, you'll have a hell of a time finding another job. You should be glad I'm not cutting your bonus." He was sure I wouldn't dare to quit. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. 2 days later, I handed him my notice. He approved it instantly. Get out. It wasn't long before he regretted it. He'd forgotten that the two massive, imported machines the plant bought a decade ago, I was the only one who knew how to fix them. 01. "Hey Leo, I got my first paycheck. I'll buy you lunch to say thanks for showing me the ropes," Kevin, the intern Mr. Harrison had assigned to me, said, sliding into the chair across from my workbench. "You're just starting out, man. Keep that money for yourself," I said. "I've been a senior tech here for over a decade, and I was only pulling in about $55,000 a year. How much could an intern be making?" With that thought, I glanced down at his pay stub. Then I froze. How was I making $55,000 while this kid, fresh out of college, was looking at a salary that annualized to over $75,000? Was it a payroll error? Or did Harrison actually think I was worth less than an intern? I told myself to stay calm. Taking a slow breath, I asked Kevin, "Is this right? 75 grand? You must have connections to get a rate that high." Kevin just shrugged, but what he said next hit me like a ton of bricks. "Nope, that's what I negotiated with HR. 75 during the probationary period, then 90 plus a housing stipend once I'm full-time. The other 3 interns who started with me all got the same deal. Is something wrong? It wasn't just 75. It was going up to 90. I immediately pulled out my own pay stub and showed it to him. "Look, this is mine." Kevin's eyes went wide with disbelief. He'd seen firsthand how much I did for this place. "No way, Leo. That can't be right. You've been here forever, and you're the only one who can fix those big German presses. The rest of us just get to hand you tools." He leaned in closer. "How is that even possible? I heard Sarah in accounting makes 93, and Dave in logistics is at 120, and they both started years after you. So the entire plant, except for me, the guy who was here from the beginning, was getting paid market rate or better." It all clicked into place. Why no one ever talked about their salaries around me? It wasn't because they were embarrassed by how little they made. It was because they were all making more than me and were afraid I'd find out. I'm an introvert. I mostly keep to myself and rarely get into office gossip. If Kevin hadn't shown me his pay stub, I would have remained completely in the dark. No wonder my colleagues were always going on vacations and buying new cars while I was pinching pennies just to get by. Harrison had found his one sucker, and he was milking it for all it was worth. 02. After hearing what Kevin said, I grabbed my pay stub and marched straight to the plant manager's office. "Mr. Harrison? It's Leo. I need to talk to you." When I walked in, he didn't even look up from his paperwork. He just waved a hand, oozing authority. "What is it?" "I am Busse." I slapped my pay stub down on his desk. My voice trembled with anger. "I've done some checking. Besides Maria from the cleaning crew, who makes a little less than me, everyone in this plant, including the brand new interns, makes more than I do. Why? Is this some kind of joke?" Harrison didn't flinch. A smug little smile played on his lips as he explained, "That's the salary you agreed to when you were hired. Leo, I'm paying you what we agreed. Is there a problem?" If I hadn't seen the other salaries, I might have bought that everyone was in the same boat. It turned out everyone else's boat had been rising with the tide for years, while mine was anchored to the bottom. I let out a cold laugh. That was the going rate 15 years ago. I've given everything to this plant. The machines I maintain have never had a major failure in all that time. Yet you haven't given me a single raise in 15 years. For a second, Harrison looked surprised. "The machines run well because they're quality German engineering. What's that got to do with you? Don't get ahead of yourself. You've been working for the salary for 15 years without a peep. Why the sudden issue?" He leaned back in his chair. "The economy is tough right now, Leo. You need to be a team player. Think about the bigger picture." Then came the punchline. "I see a lot of potential in you. I was thinking of sending you on that training course in Germany next month." The old dangling carrot routine. Last year, there was a certification program he promised me, then gave it to someone else. 6 months ago, I asked for a week off, unpaid, to take a course on my own dime, and he denied it. Now, he was telling me he valued me and wanted to send me to Germany? Who was he kidding? I may be quiet, But I'm not stupid. You can say the empty promises. I just want to know one thing. Are you going to give me a raise or not? Harrison paused, pretending to think it over. Fine. I'll have payroll bump you up $1 an hour. Now, take the win and get back to work. $1 an hour? Was he serious? He was treating me like a panhandler. I shot back immediately. That's insulting. Those interns can't do anything but quote textbooks. I'm the one training them. I want, at a minimum, to be brought up to their salary level. Harrison rejected it out of hand. That's impossible. They have bachelor's degrees from top universities. You have an associate's from a community college. How can you even compare? That's the pay grade for your level of education. He leaned forward, his voice dropping into a threat. Besides, the job market sucks right now. A guy like you, pushing 40, you think it'll be easy to find something else? You should think long and hard about that. He was completely confident, playing on my loyalty and my fear. You have a family to support, kids in school, aging parents. How are you going to make ends meet without this job? I was speechless. I didn't know what to do. Swallow my pride and stay, or walk away and face the unknown. I left his office in a daze. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. I couldn't focus, kept making simple mistakes. I felt like a fool. All these years, friends had told me to find a new job, but I'd stayed out of a misplaced sense of loyalty. It wasn't loyalty. It was idiocy. I'd wasted years of my life. I remembered, back in my 3rd year here, a headhunter had called, offering a massive salary to jump to a competitor. But I believed Harrison's promise. You just keep up the great work, Leo. I'll take care of you with promotions and raises. I politely turned the headhunter down. Thinking about it now made my stomach turn. 03. For the next couple of days, I did my job, but the thought of quitting was a constant drumbeat in my head. Honestly, I wished he'd just fire me. That way, I could collect a hefty severance package. But I knew Harrison was too cheap for that. He'd rather just squeeze me out, giving everyone else a raise while keeping me at a 15-year-old salary. That was his way of telling me my diploma wasn't good enough, his way of pushing me to leave on my own. Once I realized that, I started polishing my resume after work. I sent it out to competitors, to similar plants in other states. I even reached out to old classmates from my tech program, asking them to keep an eye out for any openings. A few days later, I ran into Harrison in the elevator. It was packed with other employees, all of them offering a cheerful morning, Mr. Harrison. I broke my long-standing habit and said nothing. I just stood silently in the corner, treating him like he was invisible. In the chorus of greetings, my silence was deafening. Harrison shot me a glare, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people think being an old-timer gives them a free pass to disrespect management. If I wasn't such a sentimental guy, they'd have been out on their ear years ago. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I fired back. You're so sentimental you pay me a salary from 2010. Anyone who didn't know better would think you were running a charity case. Harrison's face turned beet red. He never expected me, the quiet guy, to call him out in front of everyone and make him lose face. He was completely flustered. Try to regain control, he pointed a shaking finger at me. What is that attitude? This company trained you, gave you a career, and this is how you repay us? You ungrateful bastard. You know what? If you have a problem, quit. I'll sign the papers today. He thought I was bluffing. He thought I was trapped by my circumstances. But in that moment, a wave of relief washed over me. The decision was made. Fine. I hope you mean that. Because I quit. With that, I unclipped my ID badge from my belt and tossed it at his chest. The feeling was incredible. Pure, liberating satisfaction. Even if I didn't find another job for a while, I didn't care. I was done with this damn place. Harrison's face was a mask of fury and panic. He knew the interns were still green. He knew they couldn't handle the big machines if something went wrong. But he had backed himself into a corner. He couldn't take it back now. He tried to backtrack, using fear as his weapon. It's a tough world out there, Leo, especially for a guy in his late 30s. You really want to be telling your family you're unemployed? I'll give you one more chance. Apologize to me right now, and we can forget this ever happened. But he'd miscalculated. I had already accepted the worst-case scenario. It's fine, I said. If I can't find a job, I'll drive for Uber. I'll do DoorDash. I'll work for TaskRabbit. Other people make a living that way, and so can I. I work countless hours of unpaid overtime here for $55 grand a year. I bet I can make more delivering pizzas. That morning, I put my resignation letter on his desk and stood there while he read it. Sign it. Harrison stared at me, pushing his glasses up his nose. His expression was unreadable. You're sure about this? Once you walk out that door, there's no coming back. I nodded, my patience wearing thin. Sign it. Before I change my mind and decide to just slack off on your dime until you're forced to offer me a severance package. 04. That did it. He finally signed the form. Get out. Pack your stuff and get out of my sight. After 15 years, I had a surprising amount of personal stuff. I had ordered a large duffel bag from Amazon same-day delivery to fit it all. As I was packing, one of the other employees, probably worried I was taking company property, called security. A guard came over and demanded to inspect my bag. I opened it wide and started recording with my phone. Go ahead. Search away. This way, we'll have a record, so no one can accuse me of stealing later. The guard pulled out a few sets of Allen wrenches, a voltage tester, and some other specialized tools he didn't recognize. He looked at me sternly. These look like they belong to the factory. We suspect you of theft. You need to come with us. His tone made it clear he'd already decided I was guilty. I snorted. Open your eyes and look closer. These are mine. I bought them myself. The set the factory provides is so worn out it's useless. I asked for new ones, but management kept saying they were fine, or they buy some cheap junk that would break on the first use. So I paid out of my own pocket for professional-grade tools to fix the company's machines. Some of these were custom-made. I've got the receipts, and to tell them apart from the company's junk, every single one has my initials engraved on it. The guards looked at each other, then examined the tools and the receipts on my phone. They immediately backed down. Saw the, our mistake. As I was shouldering the heavy duffel bag to leave, Kevin ran to catch up with me, a worried look on his face. Leo, if you're gone, what happens if those machines break down? I don't know how. I sighed. That's Harrison's problem now. He was so eager to get rid of me. He must have a backup plan. Kevin looked genuinely upset. I'm not ready. I want to keep learning from you. Wherever you end up, let me know. I'll apply for a job there just to be your apprentice again. To be fair, even though Kevin was making more than me, he was a good kid, eager to learn and always respectful. If it hadn't been for him, I'd still be in the dark about my salary. I was grateful to him for opening my eyes. I clapped him on the shoulder. You got it. As soon as I land somewhere, you'll be the first to know. I trained a lot of interns over the years. He was one of the few who was humble and truly wanted to learn. Another year or so, and he might have been ready to take over for me. But not yet. He'd barely scratched the surface of what I knew. I knew the quirks and moods of those imported machines better than anyone. I took one last look back at the massive presses that had been my mechanical companions for so long. With a final sigh, I said a silent goodbye. It was time to move on. When I got home, I hesitated outside the door. Hitting middle age and suddenly being unemployed, I was afraid my wife would be upset. With 2 kids in school and one of her parents needing expensive medication, money was tight. But when I told her why I'd quit, she didn't blame me at all. In fact, she immediately suggested we go out to a nice restaurant with the kids to celebrate. Good riddance to that Scrooge, she said. You deserve better. You're so skilled, you'll find a much better job in no time. Her support meant the world to me, and it made me even more determined to find something new and fast. But the job market was brutal. Many companies had strict degree requirements. Others had unspoken age limits. Being on the verge of 40 was a definite disadvantage. Anxiety started to creep in. I began to wonder if I should give up my trade and try something else, maybe drive for Uber Eats like I'd threatened. Then, 3 days later, I got a call from Kevin that lifted my spirits instantly. Leo, you won't believe this, he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. The day after you left, one of the big presses went down. The temperature shot up, and it wouldn't cool down. Every time they tried to start it, it started smoking within minutes. Nobody knew what to do. Production line 3 was shut down for 8 hours. They finally had to call in an outside contractor who charged them $1,000 for 3 hours of work. Harrison had to pay up. I listened, a small smile forming on my face. Is it running normally now? Kevin's voice was full of schadenfreude. His fix only lasted a few hours. It's broken again, same problem. Now Harrison is trying to call the guy back, but he's not picking up his phone. Harrison is so mad he's yelling at everyone he sees. Broken again. Serve him right. Those machines were complex imports. When we first got them, the company sent me to the manufacturer in Germany for 2 months of specialized maintenance training. All the manuals were in German, which was a headache for anyone else. To make matters worse, the original manufacturer went out of business 3 years ago. Even if Harrison wanted to call them for support, there was no one to call. In this entire city, I was the only person who could properly fix those multi-million-dollar machines. Sensing my enjoyment, Kevin kept going. Harrison is trying to decide whether he should swallow his pride and beg you to come back. Every day the machine is down, the plant loses a ton of money. But his ego is in the way, since he's the one who basically kicked you out. If you were willing to come back, I could help you negotiate for whatever you want. But I had finally made the leap. There was no way I was going back to that toxic environment. After I hung up, I blocked Mr. Harrison's number. 06. After a promising interview, I was heading back to my apartment building when I saw my former supervisor, Mark, waiting by the entrance. When he saw that I was about to walk right past him into the elevator, he rushed over, a fake smile plastered on his face. "Leo, hold on a second. I wanted to ask you something." He pulled out his phone and played a video of the malfunctioning machine. "I was hoping you could tell me what the solution to this might be." He had this earnest, humble look on his face, a far cry from the smug suck-up I'd seen just a few days earlier, calling me a useless community college grad to kiss up to the boss. But why should I help him? I wasn't an employee anymore. They weren't paying me. I had no obligation to solve their problems. I threw my hands up. "Sorry, can't help you." "No idea." Mark's friendly facade dropped. He tried to pull rank. "Leo, Mr. Harrison sent me. Even if you won't do me a favor, you should at least show him some respect. You worked at that plant for years. You must have some attachment to that machine. Don't you want to see it running again?" He was desperate, but I wasn't. In fact, I found it kind of funny. My response was blunt. The plant showed me zero respect. Why should I feel any attachment to it? Whether it gets fixed or not is none of my business. It's not my money being lost. Mark got angry, resorting to threats. "You watch your tone with me. If you refuse to help us, Mr. Harrison can make sure you're blacklisted in this entire industry." He seemed to forget I wasn't his subordinate anymore. I shrugged. "Go ahead. If he blacklists me, I'll go drive for Uber. I've already got the app on my phone. I'm pretty sure he doesn't run the gig economy." I had nothing to lose, and his threats meant nothing. The most valuable assets that plant had were those machines. Business wasn't great, and if they broke down for good, Harrison wouldn't have the capital to replace them. The plant would likely go under. Who would he have the power to blacklist then? Seeing that threats weren't working and remembering the broken machine waiting for a fix, Mark softened his tone. "Look, if you tell us how to fix it, we'll pay you. Once the machine is running, Mr. Harrison said he'll give you $200 for your time." He thought I'd jump at the cash, but I knew the relationship was toxic. If I took their money and fixed the machine, the next time it broke, they'd blame me. They'd claim I did a sloppy job on purpose, so I could keep coming back for more money. To avoid that headache, the answer was simple: don't touch it. I stuck to my guns. "Honestly, I don't know how to fix that problem. You'll have to find someone else." As Mark walked away, he muttered under his breath, "What an idiot. Turning down easy money." 07. A few days later, Kevin called me with another update. He told me that after Mark came back empty-handed, he spun a story to Harrison about how uncooperative I was. Harrison, furious, took his anger out on the new interns. "I hired you university grads, and you can't even fix one old machine? What are you good for? If you can't get it working, you're all fired." Several of the interns were so shaken, one of them quit on the spot. Kevin said that without me there, they had no one to guide them. They were constantly making mistakes on minor repairs, and with the main press always on the fritz, production efficiency had plummeted. The atmosphere in the plant was tense and miserable. Kevin was now planning his own exit. Unable to get my help, Harrison and Mark pulled some strings and brought in several veteran mechanics from other plants. At first, their fixes would last a few hours, maybe half a day. But because they never addressed the root cause, the machine got progressively worse with each repair. Now, not only was it still overheating, but there was a faint, acrid smell of burning electrical components wafting from its vents. They had spent a fortune, but the machine was only getting more damaged. Some of the so-called experts they hired were hacks who couldn't even put back the parts they took off. Kevin told me he saw one mechanic secretly use superglue to stick a leftover bracket into a crevice underneath the machine just to make it look like he hadn't messed up. It was a complete Mickey Mouse operation. He said he was now scared to even walk past that press. He had a growing fear that one day, the overheating would cause it to explode, leading to a major industrial accident. Hearing this, I urged him, get out of there now. Don't get caught up in that mess. If the pressure builds up, that thing could genuinely blow. Kevin took my advice seriously and said he was writing his resignation letter that night. Seeing that he was serious about leaving, I told him I just landed a new job at another plant. As soon as they have an opening, I'll let you know so you can apply. He was thrilled. Leo, that's all I want. You're careful. You're a master at what you do. I trust you. I'll be waiting for your call. Just yesterday, I'd accepted an offer from a manufacturing company that desperately needed an experienced technician who knew how to handle older, specialized equipment. They offered me a starting salary of $120,000 a year, plus bonuses, a commuter stipend since the plant was downtown, and paid overtime. It was a legitimate, professional operation, a world away from my old job. I couldn't wait to start tomorrow. When my wife heard about the new salary, she was ecstatic for me. Finally, she said, we won't have to worry so much about the bills. My kids told me how proud they were and that they wanted to be as skilled as me one day. Our family was celebrating, but someone else wasn't so happy. The next morning, as I was about to leave for my first day at my new job, my old boss, Mr. Harrison, was waiting for me at the entrance to my apartment building. 08. He didn't have a key fob for the elevator and didn't know which apartment was mine, so he'd been forced to lie in wait. When he saw me, he looked like a drowning man spotting a life raft. Now, it was my fault. I was wrong. The plant can't function without you. He was talking fast, words tumbling over each other. Look, I'll give you $150,000 a year, and I'll personally take you out for a steak dinner to apologize. Please, let bygones be bygones and come back with me right now. The machine is completely down. We're in crisis mode. If we can't get it fixed, we'll miss our delivery deadlines, and the losses will be catastrophic. He sounded desperate, but my only thought was not my problem. I held up my new company ID badge so he could see it. I've already started somewhere else. They're paying me $120 to start. That's when Harrison truly panicked. $180. I'll give you $180 if you quit your new job and come back. Or just help us this one time. As a freelance job, I'll pay you $500 under the table. Your new company never has to know. Even now, he was lowballing me. He'd paid that other hack $1,000. He still saw me as the same pushover he could easily exploit. There was no way I was going to risk my new, fantastic job by moonlighting for him, no matter the price. Our relationship was so sour, I had no doubt that as soon as the machine was fixed, he'd anonymously rat me out to my new employer just to get me fired. There was no reason to agree. Can't do it. I signed a non-compete agreement with my new company. I'm not interested in getting sued. You'll have to find someone else. Seeing my resolve, he got even more frantic, upping his offer. $1,000 for a single visit? How about that? Just this once. $1,500. My answer was to turn and walk away. Later that day, Kevin told me that after failing to recruit me, Harrison had hired an expensive foreign technician, paying him a fortune. But since Kevin was the only one left who knew anything about the machine's recent history, Harrison refused to accept his resignation, telling him he had to stay for another month to transition the new guy. According to Kevin, the foreign technician could read the German manuals, but wasn't familiar with that specific model. After a few failed attempts at a repair, the machine shut down completely and wouldn't even turn on. Harrison tried to fire the technician, who simply packed his tools and walked out. The incident caused a mass exodus of the remaining mechanics and interns. That machine was now a radioactive hot potato no one would touch. As if one disaster wasn't enough, the second imported machine started showing signs of the same problems. Harrison was so stressed his hair looked grayer overnight, but there was nothing he could do. Eventually, he used his connections to find a retired old-timer who was willing to take a look. The old mechanic tinkered with it for 2 days, and miraculously, the dead machine came back to life. But Kevin called me with a chilling update. It's running because that old guy did something crazy. He completely disabled the overheating protection system. This is insane. To meet production quotas, they're just inviting a catastrophe. I can't stay here another minute. He wanted to report it, but was afraid of making an enemy of a well-connected industry veteran. But his conscience got the better of him, and he told Harrison what the old mechanic had done. Harrison verbally agreed to look into it, but then immediately ordered the plant to start running 24/7 shifts, keeping the compromised machine running nonstop. That was the last straw for Kevin. Terrified, he forfeited his last 2 weeks of pay, grabbed his personal belongings, and left on a shared city bike, just to get away as fast as he could. 09. He was right to run. Not long after he left, the machine exploded. The blast wave, carrying a plume of fire, ripped through the factory. It felt like a small earthquake, shattering windows and shaking buildings across the street. Kevin hadn't moved out of his nearby rental apartment yet. The explosion woke him from a deep sleep. He ran to his window and looked toward the plant. The sky was dark, but he could smell smoke in the air. Just as he was about to go back to bed, he heard the wail of sirens racing in that direction. He threw on some clothes and ran outside. By the time he reached the factory gate, a crowd had gathered. Workers were stumbling out, their faces covered in soot, looking dazed and lucky to be alive. Kevin grabbed a former colleague he recognized. "Sarah, what happened?" She was still breathing heavily, her voice shaking. "It blew. That old press, it exploded. The whole roof is on fire." Bit by bit, she told him what had happened. There were over 100 people on the factory floor. A guy named Dave, who was working closest to the machine, was hit in the leg by a piece of shrapnel. He was badly injured and had already been taken away by an ambulance. Several others had minor injuries and were waiting for medical attention. A cold dread washed over Kevin. He was supposed to have been on the night shift. If he hadn't run when he did, he would have been standing right where Dave was. The person injured tonight would have been him. Harrison knew the machine was a time bomb, but he prioritized profits over people's lives. Filled with anger, Kevin immediately told the police everything he knew about the disabled safety system. After giving his official statement, he called me. Now, the machine exploded. I was fast asleep, but the news shot me bolt upright in bed. "Is everyone okay? What can I do?" Kevin sighed heavily. "There's nothing left to do. The fire is out, but the place is a wreck. The other machines are all damaged. They've arrested Harrison and that old mechanic. It's over, Leo. The whole plan is gone." 3 months later, my former boss was sentenced to 3 years in prison for criminal negligence. By the time he was sentenced, the company's finances had already collapsed. Hearing he was going to jail, his wife quickly sold off the factory for pennies on the dollar. The place I had worked for so many years was just gone. On top of everything, Harrison was now saddled with a mountain of personal debt from lawsuits and fines. 5 years later, I was at the local market picking up some vegetables when I ran into him. I didn't say anything, planning to just turn and walk away. But he called out to me, his voice weak and shaky. "Leo, wait. It was my fault. It was my wife. She said you were an introvert, that you wouldn't make a fuss. She said you were an easy target, that I could get away with not giving you a raise because you'd never find out." He looked like a broken man. I was a greedy fool. I lost everything for the sake of a few $1,000s. I guess this is my punishment. I'm not even 50, but this debt has turned my hair white. There's no coming back from this. He kept laying on the sob story, and I knew he must want something. "What's in the past is in the past," I said, trying to end the conversation. I tried to leave, but he stepped in front of me again. "I'm a financial wreck, but my son isn't. He's borrowed some money to start his own small shop, and he's looking at some used equipment. You're an expert. Could you just take a look for him? Make sure he's not buying a piece of junk." So that was it. After everything, he still wanted me to work for him for free. Why? Because he still thought I was the same quiet pushover? I refused immediately. "You'll have to ask someone else. I can't help you." Whether his son succeeded or failed had nothing to do with me. If his business took off, would he be sharing the profits? I never saw him again. But I did hear through the grapevine that his son, trying to cut corners, got scammed. He bought a load of worthless scrap metal, losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was the final nail in the coffin for their family's finances. It was predictable. A man with his character was never going to raise a son who was much different. If you want your employees to be on your side, slogans and empty promises don't work. You have to show them their value with real money. The company I'm with now treats me great. The pay is good. The benefits are solid. I think this time, I found the place where I'll work until I retire. And Kevin? He joined me here 3 years ago. He's still my apprentice, and we work together every day. I'm still an introvert, so whenever there's important news or gossip going around the plant, he's the first one to fill me in. And I, in turn, am teaching him everything I know, helping him become the best damn technician he can be.